Good morning, grown black folks talk. When how, I should say, we turn focus on the impossible becoming possible. I'm sitting here under this big wave because I'm actually doing that for another project and I don't have a lot of time. I'm between chores and doing creative things to make some cash today, doing capitalism things. But on a holiday, yes, because opportunity exists. Um, But the thought I have for today, this wave fits it because I'm sure that there was somebody a long time ago who saw the biggest waves that were available and thought about, it would be fun to be able to ride those. And so the impossible became an everyday event. And of course, if you ever go to Mavericks, yeah, this wave is a little bit big, but not as big as some of those that people are riding, like for real. In the United States of America, African Americans are in a bit of a situation. There are a lot of waves, big ones, rolling. And a lot of the going back and forth that we have going on between the younger generations of Black men and women has to do with the fact that we have judged one another not able to deal with these impossible situations and be able to be any help to each other. In short, that really is what is going on. I saw something yesterday that really confused me, and the reason it confused me is because I didn't know what I was looking at. You do not need to have the details. Just know that the person in question was someone who has completely given up on being able to make it in this society and is free cycling his way to an early grave. Let's just leave it there for right now. And is able to create life ending situations between him and the drugstore at the end of the block and all the way between going to another country and not having the money to get back because he is just living to please his lusts and is continuing to create life-ending situations for himself doing it. And the reason we know is because he's broadcasting this on his YouTube channel. And has some things in there that he was doing with women that needed to be reported on that channel. So going to lose the income from the channel too, if myself and a few other sisters have anything to do with that. Because at the moment that you take your foolishness and you begin to bring other people into it, then we who have concern for the community have to speak up. But that man is but a wave. And that wave is if you don't have certain skills, it is going to be impossible for you to get the life you want in the United States of America. It is what it is. But sometimes you just need to figure out where are the surfboards as opposed to living under one of these and waiting for that curve to break. Because eventually it will. As content creator Lennon Honor says, proximity gives way to chance. Eventually it will. And you don't want to be in the curve of it. A lot of what we have to do is stop looking at why each other can't do it. Because, like I said, last week was pot roast and black women and all this, my man, I got a man, I got a ridiculous. But this I mentioned because, again, I realize what a lot of us are doing is looking at the wave of change that is coming over the world and realizing we don't have what it takes to make it, and then looking at each other. And meanwhile, everybody's on the curve of the wave. I don't normally talk about the dreams that I have, but I was thinking about the possible, the impossible, and I remembered the story of Joseph in the Old Testament. This young man was handed a truly impossible situation, from being his father's favorite child of 13 to being sold into slavery by his jealous brothers, to being falsely accused by the wife of his master, to prison, to being the prime minister of Egypt in 13 years. And he started at only 17 years old. He was prime minister by 30. There are a lot of impossible situations that he faced, but he trusted in the Lord and walked faithfully day after day after day after day after day. This same weekend, I was introduced to a video game called Getting Over It. I haven't played it, but I've seen it played, and it's all about climbing a mountain. You have all the tools you need. You're just going to need to learn how to use them. You're going to have to use them consistently, and you're going to have an incredible amount of being able to get knocked down and get up again. I went to a graduation yesterday. Sergeant Love and some other leaders of the community, black men, have completed a course of study. I have a subscriber that said, that says that she wouldn't go to a church that didn't have this much and this much of this much. And we have been talking a lot about men qualifying themselves for leadership. Well, both Sergeant Love and my pastor have been in study and are qualifying themselves for leadership. In the Christian world, there are two things that are simply not going to be questioned because of the order of creation. Normal order is for men to have public leadership, but they must study to show themselves approved. I was glad to witness that graduation yesterday because it shows that they're still what? Finding surfboards, getting over it, increasing their learning. I've talked about this before. Despair leads to degeneracy. Degeneracy leads to degradation, and degradation leads to destruction. This gentleman whom I witnessed yesterday is deep in the throes of despair about being able to have a life for himself worth living. He is deep into degeneracy. He is deep into degradation. And like I said, he's now making mistakes on a budget that could easily lead to his death. I mean, we witnessed two just looking through the channel to see, okay, how much of this do we need to report, though? We witnessed too. And even as we reported him, I realized that, if that channel gets taken down because of his activities, we're going to mess with what little income he has. I recognize that, except that the degeneracy is getting so great that he's becoming a danger to other people, Black women internationally. Some people are going to camp out under the wave and talk about they can't do any better and get themselves destroyed with others. Other people are going to get surfboards. Now, as a Christian, and that also covers Sergeant Love and my pastor, we have a God who loves an impossible. Jesus said, for with God, nothing shall be impossible. In mathematics, we have a couple things that we have analogies about God to understand them. 1 times 1 times 1 is still 1. It is a triunity. Of course, you can put as many ones in there as you want, but we do see this possible. A chord, 3 notes in general. You can have notes built on more than that, but the fundamental chord takes 3 notes. That's a triunity. Well, about the omniscience of God, we get this situation. You have mathematical infinities. So if you have what's called an infinite cardinal number, Aleph null. I don't expect y'all to remember this from math class at all. Most of you didn't take college mathematics. If you didn't take that, you didn't get it. But we know that if you take infinity and you add something to it, a finite number, it's still an infinity because that infinity already contains that finite number. So if you have infinity, you have all the countable numbers, the finite cardinal numbers, 1, 2, 3, count them as high as you like. If you have that, you have all the numbers. You have everything you need. With God, nothing is impossible because with God, you have all the tools, all of them. Whatever you need to deal with your impossible will be provided if it is for you to do. We have this analogy sitting in mathematics. The more real math and science you study, actually, the more your faith will be strengthened. For example, we know from quantum physics that what the Bible says is known unto God are his works from the beginning of the world. Time is fixed from the beginning of time. And it is possible, if you could do it, to stand outside of it. And since it's so well ordered, the question naturally begs itself. Did somebody order this? The answer is yes. But the question from science begs itself. Well, for mathematics, we know what happens when you have infinity. Whatever you add to it or take away from it doesn't matter. As long as you have it, you have all the countable numbers. Aleph null is the name of it if you want to look that up. With God, nothing shall be impossible. Everything is possible if it is for you to tackle. So as a Christian, I get a great deal of joy in knowing, okay, I'm gonna get up tomorrow morning. It's a holiday. Ain't nobody thinking about doing some of the stuff that I'm doing in this country. But I'm gonna be up making things happen. Why? Because with God, nothing shall be impossible. I already made the art that I need for the project years ago. I'm 42 now. I think I was 39 when this art was made. The art I need, the song I was given last night, the story I'll write a little bit later. I can get this, I can win this contest. At least I can get into it and do well in it. I can get there. So that little piece of cash will be over there on the side, making passive income on Hive. The existence of African Americans as free people in the United States was for 246 years held as impossible by the mass of people. But people kept finding their way to freedom anyway, and then one day In 1865, freedom came to almost everybody. It would really take till 1868, and there's a very good argument to be made that we still must attend to being free even today. But that was held to be impossible for the 1500s in South America, starting there, and also in Florida in 1526. It was held to be impossible. The 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, and even half of the 1800s by the vast majority of the population in the country in which I live, the United States of America. And then there was a big army and a great number of traitor U.S. Army officers who joined the Confederacy and tried their best to make it impossible. They failed. And so the impossible became possible and an everyday occurrence, just like people taking out their surfboards and surfing these big waves. For with God, nothing shall be impossible. As a matter of common grace, a lot of times people have skills and talents and tools that they don't even know they have and they're not using because the temptation to despair is so huge. But our people have climbed a mountain from abject poverty in slavery all the way to being able to do this. I'm not much of an example, but it is what it is, y'all. Got my, here we go. Working on my new wardrobe too. These things are getting too big. And of course, if you would ask anybody about me, ask anybody about me 5 years ago, I'm doing the best I can, but there's nothing happening in terms of weight loss. There were a couple of tweaks I needed. I had to see a nutritionist to find out what those tweaks were. But it would seem to be impossible. Most people write Black women off that we can't do anything to change our situation. And many of us are heartbroken into despair and then degeneracy and then degradation. And then now, generally, we will try to hold it together because we know that there are a lot of other people depending on us. Black women as a mass are more responsible. I don't need any argument about that. Simply because we have not, as a third, gone to felony criminality, convicted. We are more responsible. We are more responsible than Black men overall. So we generally don't go as far down the track, but it does happen. It does happen. People do not have any expectation for us to be able to improve our lives in any way. And yet, I went back and I looked at my videos from just the previous year and looked at myself today and then 4 years ago compared to today. It's possible, people. It is possible. I go to stores and I fit comfortably into clothes that people would have thought I would never fit into again. I got more coming. It's possible. You take the tools you have, you work with them day by day. That's it. That's all. Till you, as a computer game says, get over it. Not get over it as in give it up, but actually get over it. Actually get over it. That's what that computer game actually teaches. Joseph in the Bible, the Old Testament, had to work through his situation with God day by day by day by day by day. 13 years of suffering he did not deserve and ended up prime minister. Everybody's not going to end up living large and in charge. But if you keep going, if you can resist despair, if you can resist then being taken over by your vices, if you can get the help you need to heal your traumas, you can make it. Again, a long time ago, someone was sitting outside looking at this and thinking, maybe we can ride that. The impossible became possible and then plausible. Almost all of human progress. Two guys named the Wright brothers were like, they say a heavier than air flying machine probably can't be built, but yeah, 1903, we're gonna do that. We're gonna see if we can do that. The impossible became possible and then plausible and then every day. The moon. It's probably not made of cheese. Maybe we can get there. We're not moonshotting every day, but I know we just sent something else up there. And again, it's Make Black History Month, y'all. I was not supposed to be sitting here. For centuries, that was held to be impossible. I'm here, free. And if you're listening to me, so are you. Take the tools you have and build on them. If you need to go get more education, get it. I'm not always talking about college. Google has certificates. YouTube has all kinds of information about how to learn new things. I make use of it every day. I'm still working on this week's crypto video, but when I have time to do it this morning, we'll try to get back to that by the end of the day. It's a holiday, so I got a little bit more time. Um, but what I want to encourage us to do, okay, yeah, it looks like we're always behind the wave as African Americans. This has sort of been our experience. Don't worry about it. If you're meant to ride it, there's going to be a surfboard available. What you have to do is find it and practice and ride. And if you are a Christian, know that whatever you need in all of infinity, you have it because you have God in Christ. In common grace, if you're not a Christian, common grace says the universe is still abundant. If you seek, you'll still find a way. It's just going to be hard to do certain things not having the Spirit of God within you, but generally speaking, a way can be found. We live in an abundant universe in a country that's still quite prosperous. Do the work, and you will get over it. And if you don't, you're going to end up out here looking like that poor individual last night who, like I said, is routinely running himself into a disastrous situation. And just the common grace of God is basically holding him in hopes that he will repent. But it's inevitable. Keep on living the way he is. But why? A little bit of compassion. This man has become lost to his lusts and his vices because he does not believe that he has the skills or the talents to do any better. And if I could address that for him, the problem could be solved. I can't. It's beyond me to do that. I can definitely pray. And then for the sake of the other people who he was involving in his foolishness, he also need to be reported. But it doesn't mean I don't care. It means that's two different things. Only God can rescue people who are sunk in degeneracy and despair. I can't, but I can pray. And I do have hope for him. That I have hope that God can change him if God wills. And if this man will. We'll see. Maybe. I probably will never mention him again. It's relevant because if you don't take the trouble of doing what you need to do to improve your situation, anything can happen to anyone at any time. Despair will lead you right to destruction. Be encouraged. Be encouraged. It is possible, even though it probably looks like ain't nowhere in the world. We're about to die. No. Get a good surfboard and get on over that wave. All right. Y'all have a good day now. Enjoy your holiday. I'm actually up early, got to get stuff done so I can get out and enjoy mine. The outdoors is calling my name today. And y'all may see a video from me later on. All right. Bye.